Excellencies, learned judges, ladies and gentlemen, fellow lawyers, let me welcome you to the last session of today. One aspect of today's theme has been whether the approach to evidence in different international tribunals is similar. I suspect that those with experience of different kinds of international tribunal would strongly take the view that the approaches can be very different. And in particular, international courts are perhaps sometimes reluctant to delve too deeply or closely into fact-finding. And sometimes it might be said that there's been a tendency to avoid controversial fact-finding in the interests of discretion. So perhaps there's a touch sometimes of diplomacy as well as dispute resolution. That may not be a bad thing, but that's part of what we should factor into the discussion today. By contrast, the tribunals that we're about to deal with have no reticence at all about addressing and deciding controversial questions of fact and probing the evidence very properly. Our speakers are experts in investment arbitration, in commercial arbitration, and sports law. And these cases raise usually very clear issues of fact which have to be resolved. Was there expropriation by a state? Was there a breach of contract? Did the basketball player jump high because he was high on some inappropriate substance? In these tribunals, it is the absolute norm to test the evidence of witnesses of fact and experts, and our speakers are well equipped to explain how that is done. We have 4 of them. They will speak for 16 minutes each to allow for questions at the end. Dr. Mojtabi Kazazi is Vice President of the Institute de Droit International. He is a former judge and a current academic and arbitrator, and he is going to present, first of all, an overview of the approach to evidence in investment and commercial arbitration. Mojtabi.
Thank you very much. Given that, well, first let me start by thanking the organizers, although it's a consensus by now, everyone is doing that, but it's a must, I should do it, and so happy I was to see Judge Klatkin again, but really the organization has been excellent, and I am amazed how you have managed to bring together all those people from around the world for this meeting, and it has been a great and excellent meeting. I have also been very happy to see Dr. Raджput here and enjoyed listening to him. Let me say at the beginning that I was thinking during the break, because of what we have heard, very good presentations we have heard here, I have made, as we do, all of you do probably in a trial and all that, some last-minute changes in the presentation and all that. The result probably would be that the presentation would look fragmented, but maybe that, for the sake of saving time, would be helpful to do that. And I will be, because I have looked before and again recently preparing for this, I don't see much difference in practice of the commercial arbitration and investment arbitration different from what it has been discussed today. Each of them, of course, have their own characteristic. Some of them I will refer to, particularly the investor-state arbitration, because of the presence of the states. That has its own issues for that part. But some of the issues, of course, are not related to the evidence. And when it comes to the question of evidence, then more is the issue of whether a state is allowed to rely on its own laws in production of documents, say I am not allowed, this state is not allowed to produce this. If one says no, then the question is why to prefer a foreign investor to the nationals and give them more, or the question of the secrecy. On the other hand is the question of the commercial secrets and all that. That could be the question of public policy. These type of issues will arise and is there, and mainly within the question of production of evidence. Other than that, the main rules of the burden of proof and the standard of proof that we will discuss a bit is the same in other ones, and that are being applied. Having said that, let me start also by saying that this workshop today is happening at a time that a general debate, as many of you know, a general debate is going on about the role of international tribunals in determining investment disputes and the possible implication for their future shape generally, and in particular whether a permanent international court should be established to deal with investment disputes or not. UNCITRAL, not the rules, the organization, has taken the lead and is coordinating this question of reform of an interstate at an interstate level. The discussions already have revealed differences of views among the states, as often happens. And then the question also is being discussed, particularly at the European Court of Justice as well, which they also started it. At the same time, another development is that EXID, as the principal center responsible for the administration of investment disputes, has undertaken an extensive review of its rules. And they released the result of that review in August, August, and now they are discussing it. I think there was a meeting yesterday or today in London and in other places. They were in Geneva 2 weeks ago and all that. It's about, it's on the internet, it's about something like a 1,000-page report in 3 languages that they have published. And they have some proposals on evidence as well. I looked at it as my homework for this, for today as a presentation. They are saying that, they are not saying there's anything new. They are saying, in fact, with these changes, they are bringing their rules in line with the practice.